A very good afternoon. Yes, karibuni sana to the Pan-African Diary. I'm actually waiting for Joby. This is why I'm jamming alone, but we can get started. Yes, karibuni sana to all those who are just joining us from TikTok. Shout out to all those who are with me on the radio station. To all those who are just joining us on YouTube. Yes, karibuni sana to the Pan-African Diary. Remember, the show is all about women who understand politics. Yes, we're about to discuss politics. A lot of politics. Yes, and what we shall be talking about on today's show. And also, I want to give you my quote of the day. And my quote of the day, by the way, is very easy. It's actually to motivate you to keep on going in case you're there and maybe you're feeling like you're low. Just remember to keep going. But anyway, my quote of the day says, never give up because great things take time. Never give up because great things take time. And I feel like I have another different quote. Don't watch the clock, do what it does. Keep going. Don't watch the clock, do what it does. Please keep going. Even if you're not going for you, keep going for me at least. We shall be discussing different matters, or of course this is about Africa, and one of the biggest thing I want us to look about today, it's about the 10 African countries with the highest IMF debt. And remember, this is just IMF. Remember, we have other foreign lenders, we have international lenders, we have the Chinese, we have the Exim Bank. Right now, you've seen that Kenya is actually borrowing from India. We also have people like the World Bank, you know, and those are other international foreign lenders. So we shall be looking at the 10 African countries with the highest IMF debt, and why do they have this debt as African countries. And apart from that, we shall also be looking at a different thing. This is about India in talks with Nigeria, Argentina, Philippines for fighter jet export, and our major focus on that conversation will highly go to Nigeria, because Nigeria is an African country. Remember, a country like Argentina, Philippines, that is not an African country, so that is none of our concern. We shall be looking about now Nigeria, and our concern is why is Nigeria getting in talks with India, or has India become a new influence in Africa, or is India now fighting for influence in Africa, just like we are seeing the Chinese, just like the way we're seeing the Russians and other people who are coming to fight for influence in Africa. And other than that, we shall also get to discuss about the African Development Bank warning about a warning of $25 billion loss for Africa with the EU carbon tax, or with the European Union carbon tax. And remember, the story of the carbon tax came after we saw, or after we had the Africa Climate Summit that was held in Nairobi by the President William Ruto. And this is where the introduction, or the plan to African countries receiving the carbon tax came from. But there are worries that now we might be getting a loss of $25 billion due to getting this carbon tax. And why is that? We shall be getting to see this, because remember, once we start receiving the carbon tax, this means that it is affecting our industries in Africa, because one, remember, we have so many industries in Africa, not so many, but we have industries in Africa that are trying to rise up. But now imagine we're carrying the burden of other industries that are outside the continent. But anyway, those are some of the things we shall be getting to talk about on our show for today. And also, as we get to wait for Joby, I don't know, she has just received a call, and so we are waiting for her to get done with the call. And remember, this is the Pan-African Diary. Kindly remember to keep it interactive with us. And also, we have other different matters still coming from other African countries. We have like Sierra Leone right now. We have the Sierra Leonean president, former president, in questioning of the November 26th failed coup. Remember, in November 26th, we woke up to an attempted coup that failed, an attempted failed coup that failed in Sierra Leone. But now the government is questioning the former Sierra Leonean president about the failed coup. So we shall be getting to see more of that. I'm also seeing that Burkina Faso has abandoned French as an official language, and I feel like this is something good. We should be happy actually for that country, because this is a move towards the revolution. Yeah, it is a move towards a united Africa, because once we start adopting now our main language, we shall, or a common language, we shall get to unite, or we shall get to unify Africa. But I'm so glad because they have abandoned their colonizers' language, and this is so good. We should be happy for Burkina Faso, and also we should be looking forward as African countries on how we can also abandon our colonizers' language. Other than that, we shall also be talking about the UK, Rwanda asylum deal. And you know, we had the story in court, we had the case in court, we saw it in the UK courts, we saw it in the Rwandan courts, and it was declared illegal and unconstitutional. But rather than that, the UK is still pushing for sending asylum seekers to Rwanda. So what is the plan? And I'm seeing that Rwanda has received an extra amount of money to host the asylum seekers. So it's a deal that is well paying, and Kagame is falling for it. And also, you know, the asylum seekers must be deported or must be sent to Rwanda. Why are they being dumped in Rwanda? That is the biggest question. But anyway, we shall be getting to discuss more of that as we get to continue with our show for today. I'm seeing that in Seychelles yesterday, there was a state of emergency that was declared, and this was brought by the explosion that happened, but explosion and flooding. But I'm seeing now the state of emergency has been lifted in Seychelles by the authorities, and this is something that is good because now it allows the country to continue its operations, daily to day operations. But at the end of the day, how many people have been affected by the explosion, and also how many people have we lost through this explosion? It was a very dangerous explosion to a point that now the state or the authorities thought it was right to declare a state of emergency. But we shall be getting to see that as we get to continue with our show for today. Remember to keep it interactive with me right here, and remember, we are always live and interactive on our media handles. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on Twitter, we are on TikTok, we are everywhere at Blackout Fire Network. You can also find us on our WhatsApp number 0705 428 388 is our WhatsApp number. 0705 428 388 is our WhatsApp number. Keep it interactive, and to all those who are listening to me via the radio station, you can also get to interact with us on the show page and talk to us and tell us, how is you faring with December? How are you faring with this new week, or with this first week of December? And also, how is your Friday going so far? Keep it interactive. We are going back to one more jam. I'll be back. I bet I'll start off with our conversations of the day. So in case you have something to add on top, you can as well let me know. What is that you want us to discuss today? What is that you feel like you want me to talk about today? And also remember, you can as well get to call in and tell me, what are some of the things you feel like we need to tackle on today's episode? We're going back to one more jam. I feel like I should play some KE music. Let me look for something right here. And okay, this is a Sauti Sol Nishike. Get to jump onto it. Remember to come back with me right here as we get started with our heated conversations, or with our political conversations right here. Sauti Sol, the jam is a Nishike. Get to jam. Welcome back. I want us to get started as we wait for Joby. She'll find us on the way of our discussion, and starting off our conversation of the day, I want us to look at the 10 African countries with the highest debts to the IMF. And this is traumatizing to know that Kenya is number 5 on the list. And remember, this is just the IMF. And now looking back, we have, remember, we owe the Chinese a lot. And I really want to confirm how much we owe the Chinese, and as we get to continue. So let me check how much Kenya owes the Chinese. Let me see how much Kenya owes the Chinese. Let me see. Okay, how much does Kenya owe the Chinese? Okay, in this was in May 31st, May 2023. The loan was at $6.3 billion, and that is the debt we owe the Chinese. And remember, we don't only owe the Chinese, we have now the Indian loan that we were lended this week on Tuesday. We also owe people like the central bank, yes, the World Bank, and this is crazy because now if Kenya comes number 5 on the list, it means that we owe we actually one of the most indebted countries in Africa. But my list goes like this. The first country is the country with the highest a debt rate or a debt to the IMF is Egypt, and it owes the IMF 11,968,321,674. Can you imagine? That is the money, that is the much they owe the IMF. But yes, karibu sana Joby.
Asante.
You found me started, you took long. It's okay. We're talking about the highest or the top 10 African countries that owe the IMF. The 10 African countries with the highest debt to the IMF, and the first country is actually Egypt, and I'm seeing that it owes the IMF $11.9 billion, and I wanted to look at Kenya, and remember, this is just the IMF loan. Look at a country like Kenya. I was saying we borrowed money this week. We got money from 38 point something billion from the Indians. We also have we owe the Chinese, we also owe the World Bank. Now imagine if you add the loans we have outside together, don't you think that we're the most indebted African country?
We are.
We are headed there. We are headed there. But Angola is the second one with $3.15 billion. We also have South Africa with $2.69 billion. We also have Cote d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast with $2.1 billion, and Kenya comes number 5 with $2.05 billion. Nigeria is actually behind us. Now look at the fate of Kenya. What is the fate of Kenya? Because I was talking about how these 3 countries, we have Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, and which other country? South Africa. They are now being called pilot countries in Africa, African pilot countries. But I see Keith is calling.
No, just decline it and calling back.
Okay. So if you look at these loans, now if you look at Kenya right now, you find that if you combine the loans together, you'll find that now Kenya owes, or Kenya is the most indebted, or is one of the countries that are indebted or close to the indebted countries. But I see also Ghana comes number 7. We have Morocco, Democratic Republic of Congo, and lastly we have Tunisia. And this is crazy because now this is the IMF, the International Monetary Rate is this high. What do you think is the fate of these African countries? Because I feel so sad to know that even the children of our children will still be paying this debt. It is so crazy because yes, it's a debt that must have been paid or must be paid because we took it. It might be a loan that never existed, but Africans took it. They will say, you use the money, you need to give them back the money. So what is the fate of African countries with all these debts, with all these loans? Where do you see Africa in the next maybe 10 years? Sometimes we are heavy on the revolutions, and we are praying for the revolution. But do you think that now, if we don't wake up, our fate may be the 10 years to come, we shall be at a point that we're getting colonized again, or we shall be at a point that now we are indebted to a point that we cannot even talk in our own countries? Because this is what I feel like it's going to happen. I feel like it's coming to Africa, because you cannot tell me we owe the Chinese, we owe the IMF, and we know that these international lenders, they are all controlled by the central bank and also the World Bank. So if they decide to come at us together, where will we go? Where will we run to? You know, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. But anyway, I still want to wait for Joby, because the conversation would be more better if she was here, and also I'd love to hear her thoughts on that. But I bet we shall get her to continue, because at the end of the day we cannot stick to one conversation as we wait for her. I bet she's having so many calls, and yeah, we just have to let her be. So we shall get to continue with our show for today, and also you can just let me know what are your thoughts regarding the conversation, and also where do you think that the fate, or what is the fate of African countries with these loans, with these debts? Because I feel like we will get to a point that we shall not even have a say in our own country. But anyway, you have your thoughts. You can as well share your thoughts with us right here, and do let me know what are some of your thoughts. Where do you think that Africa is headed with all these debts? Do you think that the Chinese might come to Africa and say that, you know, we owe this part just because you are not able to pay us? The IMF will come to Africa and start telling you, you know, we want this parastatal, we want the KICC, we want everything. We want everything because you are indebted, you owe us money. There's somebody stupid right here. I don't know if he got me pregnant or something. People on TikTok just talk randomly. So this man is asking, how many months are you pregnant? Did you get me pregnant? Lol, you're so insane. I don't know what you've taken, but I'm not pregnant, and I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, let's get to continue with our show for today. We want to talk about something different, and this is about Seychelles. In the morning, we woke up to them lifting the state of emergency. So I want us to talk about that. And Seychelles under a state of emergency, explosion and flooding, and a blast at an explosive depot in Seychelles prompted the president to declare a state of emergency for the country's main island, Mahé. The explosion occurred as a heavy rain triggered landslides inundating the island's rescue and response capability. And after that, we woke up to now the government lifting. Okay, let me find that article real quick. The government lifted the state of emergency. Yes, state of emergency has been lifted in Seychelles by the authorities, and the Seychelles on Thursday lifted a state of emergency declared earlier in the day after a huge blast at an explosive depot. The president said the explosion injured 66 people. It took place around 2 a.m. local time on Thursday in the industrial area of Providence in Mahé, and the archipelago's largest island. But do you guys think that this is adding up? Because I don't feel like this is adding up. Remember, back last month, we saw people trying to be chased from the archipelago island, and we had the government actually trying to tell people to leave the archipelago island. And remember, this is their ancestral land. This is where they found themselves. This is where they call home. But we have seen people in Seychelles, or those inhabitants of archipelago island being chased away. So do you think that this is just a coincidence that now there's an explosion in the Providence in Mahé, and this is the archipelago's largest island, and after that, we had now people being chased from the archipelago's island, and after that we are seeing a heavy explosion? Do you think that this is making sense? Because for me, it's not adding up. Because why first would you try to chase the people out, and you wanted to inherit that place? After that, now there's a heavy explosion. So you guys, do you think that it makes sense that now we have people being chased out first? After they said, no, we are not going, or we are not moving from this place, we have an explosion. And after that, the government declares a state of emergency. And after a few hours, the government says that we have lifted the state of emergency. Do you think that this is making sense to you? Or there's something that is happening? Or do you think that this is just a coincidence? Because I feel like there's no coincidence, and this is not just a coincidence. It's something that was said to happen, or it's something that has been planned to work so that the people on Archipelagos Island would just move peacefully, or would just be moved by the explosion. You know. But anyway, guys, you can tell me more of what you think as we continue, or as I continue reading out the article. And the explosion was so big, so loud, that it felt a whole 13 meters in the ground, and the effect went down this road in this commercial zone and blasted away windows, doors, and roofs of many commercial buildings. The state of emergency had also been enforced because of the heavy rain and floodings, and shops can now reopen and normal movement of the public resume, authorities have said, with the exception of the Providence industrial area, and an investigation will be launched. So you guys, what do you think about this? Do you think that this is just normal? We had a blast, or we had an explosion, or it came after people were being thrown out of the Archipelagos Island? And after that, now we are seeing people being told now the state of emergency has been lifted, and an investigation will be launched. That is what the government is saying, and we are waiting for more information on what really happened and what really caused the explosion, because you cannot just wake up and tell us there was an explosion without even telling us what caused the explosion. And this explosion is coming while it's raining, and it is affecting the area where you wanted people to vacate. For me, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't add up, and I don't know what you think about this, but feel free to let me know what you think about it. Shout out to all those who are just joining us on TikTok and also on YouTube. To all those who are with me on the radio, you can as well let us know what you think about this, because I feel like there's nothing like coincidence, and this is just not normal. It is not adding up. For me, it's not adding up at all. First, you told the people to vacate. Then there's an explosion. Then there's state of emergency, and then you lift the state of emergency within hours. Does that make sense to you? Is it adding up? Is the math mathing? I don't know what you think, but you can as well let me know what you think about that. And remember, we are interactive, and we have an active WhatsApp number, 0705 428 388. 0705 428 388 is our WhatsApp number, where you can share your thoughts, where you can call in and let us know what are your thoughts, and also indulge in the conversation as we get to continue with our show for today. But moving on to other different matters. This is about the UK-Rwanda asylum deal. And this week from Monday, and remember last month, the deal was declared illegal to send asylum seekers in Rwanda. It was declared illegal by the High Court of the UK. But after that, we also saw a court in Rwanda declaring the whole deal and the whole plan illegal. But after that, we are seeing the UK is still pushing for the asylum seekers to come to the Rwandan country, or to Rwanda. And after that, it was on Monday where they started saying that these people, this plan must work. So today we woke up to the UK publishing emergency bill to allow a deportation plan to Rwanda. And after this, I went on to get more information about that. I found out that UK paid Rwanda an extra 100 million euros for asylum deal. Remember, first we had the Rwandan government, or the Rwandan president, that is Kagame, receiving an amount of money for him to be able, or to facilitate, the asylum seekers getting to Rwanda. So right now we are seeing that the UK is still pushing for the deportation, or for the asylum seekers to get to Rwanda, or for the deal to work. And remember, this was declared illegal in the courts, but they keep on saying that it has to work. But the UK's immigration minister has resigned after the government published a bill declaring Rwanda a safe country for a migrant deportation scheme. Remember, first they said that it was unsafe to allow asylum seekers to come to Rwanda because it is illegal first, and also they say that the plans they are using, the methods they are using are unsafe, and also it is illegal to come and put people where they are not sure, or they are not able to get food and water. And also we saw that they say that the environment is not even safe for the asylum seekers. And remember, once these asylum seekers get to Rwanda, they have a right to be given citizenship in that country, right to education. Actually, they enjoy all the rights as a Rwandan. So tell me, what is the plan here? The plan is, these people, when they come to Africa, they are not going to be refugees. The plan is to give them citizenship in Rwanda. But do you think that this is right? Do you think that whatever Kagame is doing is right? But of course he has received a sum of money that is making sure that now, that is making him feel like whatever he's doing is right. But do you think that this is right? Do you think that this is even legal? One, we have white people coming to your country, being sent to your country from nowhere. They come, they have a right to citizenship. They have a right to education, and your people in the country are not even enjoying that right to education because the cost of living is so high, because they are paying school fee in that country. So do you think that this is even sane to have asylum seekers coming to Rwanda while the Rwandese themselves are in wars? Thank you very much, Joshua, for tapping the screen for me. I hope you're enjoying the conversation. But the UK ruling Conservative Party in a disarray after the government published emergency legislation aimed at allowing a controversial deportation scheme to Rwanda move forward. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's position looked vulnerable on Wednesday after Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick resigned due to strong disagreement with the reaction of the government's policy of immigration. And it is illegal. How comes right now it's not illegal? The Safety of Rwanda bill is designed to overcome a November 15 ruling by the UK Supreme Court that found the government's proposed scheme to send thousands of asylum seekers and migrants to the East African nation to be unlawful. How comes right now it is lawful for you to send asylum seekers to Rwanda? The draft bill, which deems Rwanda a safe country and is set to be rushed through the House of Commons, bypasses some sections of the Human Rights Act and any other provision of rule of domestic law and any interpretation of international law by the court or tribunal. The proposed legislation would also give a court the ability to ignore any injunction from the European Court of Human Rights to block flights. Sunak has promoted the emergency law, saying it allowed the deportation plan to no longer be bogged down in the courts. Our landmarks emergency legislation will control our borders, deter people taking perilous journeys across the channel, and end the continuous legal challenges filing our courts, he wrote. It is Parliament that should decide who comes to this country, not criminal gangs. That is what he said. And okay, in his resignation letter to the Prime Minister, Jenrick wrote that that the proposed laws were a triumph of hope of experience, and the stakes of the country are too high for us not to pursue the stronger protection required to end a merry-go-round of legal challenges which risk paralyzing the scheme and negating intended a deterrent, he wrote. And also, that was seen as a reference to Sunak's refusal to take Britain out of the European Convention on Human Rights. The publication of the law comes a day after British Home Secretary James Cleverly signed a new treaty during a visit to Rwanda's capital, Kigali, to include commitments regarding the treatment of asylum seekers and other migrants sent there. Foreign Minister Vincent Biruta, who signed the bilateral treaty with Cleverly, said on Wednesday that any breach of global convention could see Rwanda withdraw from the deal. Without lawful behavior by the UK, Rwanda would not be able to continue with the migration and economic development partnership, he said, referring to controversial deal. This is just crazy, and you see how these people are forcing the whites on our land. But what really is the plan? They are trying to depopulate their area. They are trying to remove some people from their country, but come and overcrowd Africa with those people. These people are not of our race. Most of them are not African people. Because if they were African people, we would accept them wholeheartedly. We would not even need deals signed to welcome those people back home. But why are they forcing white people on our land? Why? And this is, this is crazy, because now you'd even try and understand the hatred these people have for their own people, because this shows that they don't even love their own. Because why would you try and chase your own people from first even accept the deal? Because this is not the time he's accepting. He had already accepted the deal before even the UK court, the UK High Court declared, because he's getting something, moolah, money. And this greed will lead us somewhere we will not love. Somewhere we are not going to find fun. And this is not funny. It's not even funny. Because imagine we have white people being forced on black land or Africa. But we have our own people struggling in the same continent, where these white people are being, it's like a dumping site. They are dumping their people in Africa. And what do you think that this is the aim? Because once these white people come to Africa, let's overthink for a minute. Please allow us to overthink for a minute. Let's just overthink for a minute. Imagine we have the Asians, we have the white people, we have the Europeans in general, the Caucasians in general. They are in Africa, or they have been sent to Africa. So they come to Africa. And remember, in Rwanda we have black people. Once maybe a man, they fall in love with a black woman. This is how there's a generation of mulattoes. Is that the plan? Maybe that's the plan. That might be the plan of creating more mulattoes in Africa. might be the plan. And remember, these mulattoes, sometimes they might be used to overtake Africa. They might be used to overtake Africa. True, because once they have the Caucasian blood in them, they are traitors. You cannot trust them. You cannot trust them at all. You cannot trust them at all. You cannot trust mulattoes. But anyway, UK paid Rwanda an extra 100 million euros for asylum deal. So where did this money go? Kagame's pocket. In case you're wondering, this money went to Kagame's pocket. Come on now. The UK has given Rwanda a further 100 million euros this year as part of its deal to relocate asylum seekers there. The payment was made in April, and the Home Office top civil servants said in a letter to MPs after 140 million euros had already been sent to the African nation. Sir Matthew Roycroft said another payment of 50 million euros was expected this year. The revelation came hours after Rishi Sunak vowed to finish the job of reviving the plan after resignation of his immigration minister this week. The scheme to send some asylum seekers to Rwanda for processing in order to deter people from crossing the English Channel in small boats was first announced by the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson in April 2022. But it had been repeatedly delayed by legal challenges, and no asylum seekers have been sent from the UK so far. Until now, it was known that the government had spent at least 140 million euros on the policy. Sir Matthew had previously refused to disclose updated figures, saying minister had decided to set out the cost annually. But in a letter, are we buying foreigners? What is happening to Africa? Because this is what I'm getting. We are buying foreigners. Why are we buying foreigners? Why are we buying people to come and overcrowd our countries? Why are we doing so? Because this is what it looks like. It looks like now Africans, we are buying foreigners. We are buying people. It's some sort of human trafficking, of which we are the ones, we are the facilitators, we are the ones now getting these people. We are the ones buying these people, of which when they come to our country, they are of no help. Why are we doing so? Anyway, as we continue, where had I left? But in a letter published on Thursday to Dame Diana Johnson, chairwoman of the Home Affairs Committee, and Dame Meg Hillier, chairwoman of the Public Accounts Committee, he disclosed the full cost of the policy so far. On Friday morning, Mrs. Hillier told BBC Radio 4's Today program that figures were only revealed after repeated inquiries, and that there have been no updates when the situation changes. She said it is unconscionable that MPs are expected to vote on emergency Rwanda legislation next week without understanding fully what the costs are so far, what they are expected to deliver, and what the costs are going forward. It almost looks like the government got something to hide, she said. That is what she said, and I feel like, yes, there's something that is being hidden. And also now, who is to blame for this nonsense? It is Kagame. Why are you accepting to be paid for you to hold people? You know, this is just like what we are about to discuss, or what we are going to discuss as our main focus of the day. You know, we are being paid carbon tax to carry the burden of people, while our industries are in a standstill, while we are incurring losses because we have decided to carry people's burden. Africans, what are we doing? But it is the puppet leaders. I will not blame you as an African. It is these puppet leaders of which we need to get rid of. We need to get rid of them because they are damaging Africa. They are selling out Africa. Now imagine what Kagame is doing. It's like bleaching Africa. Yeah, we have a part where we have black, and then we have white people, and then they come, they intermarry. We have white. You know, it's like a bleaching Africa, and this is so crazy, and it's so sad because he's receiving money to do this. He's receiving money from the UK government to do this, to destroy Africa, to overcrowd his country. And remember, once these people land in Rwanda, they will be everywhere in Africa. Because Rwanda announced a visa free to all African countries. So they will be all over Africa once they get granted the right to citizenship. It's so crazy. But some Matthew stressed that an extra payment were not linked to the new treaty signed this week between UK and Rwanda as part of the government's attempt to amend the policy, which was ruled unlawful by the Supreme Court last month. A Home Office spokesperson would not go into specifics on what the money would be spent on, but it was going towards the economic development and growth to Rwanda. The payment was made when Suella Braverman was Home Secretary, through allies of her say it was signed off by the Prime Minister. And these are like, you know, it's a merry-go-round of which we will just discover that the asylum seekers are finally in Rwanda. These people are finally in Rwanda, and this is going to happen because this is just crazy. It is crazy, and it is so sad that an African country, a puppet, with the facilitation of this puppet leader, is doing this. You know, we have Rwanda, we have Kenya, we have South Africa, Nigeria, pilot countries, leading in everything, destroying the country. It's like best in destroying the country, best in selling out the continent, like the Kenyan president telling us it's better to trade in rupees right now. Let's de-dollarize. Let's start trading in rupees. Best in selling out Africa. We have best in selling out Africans themselves. Best in selling out Africa's resources. It's so crazy. This is so crazy. It is insane, and this has to stop. It needs to stop. But who is going to lead this to an end? Who is going to bring this to an end? Of course, it is us as African people, because I don't understand why we would allow, you know, in a place like South Africa, we have people complaining and saying that they are xenophobic and they don't love that now we have Africans crossing borders to come to South Africa and start new businesses. But we have a place like Rwanda where they are so willing to welcome strangers. People we don't know, people of different race. And you're actually getting money for doing that. Why can't the Rwandese people strike? But remember, in Rwanda, they don't have a right to speech. They don't have freedom of expression. In Rwanda, talk about the president, you get locked. They don't have a freedom to expression. You cannot express that in that country. You cannot express your feelings freely. You cannot express yourself freely in that country. You cannot talk about the president and what he has done and what he's doing freely. And this is why we don't even find them on TikTok, on Twitter, on everywhere, because they don't have right to freedom. And this is so bad because now they are at a point they are just welcoming migrants, people of different race, to their country unknowingly, just because of their puppet president receiving money from the UK government. But I believe the majority are the citizens. No matter what the president says, we are the majority. We can come against these people. Because I don't understand how South Africans, they are xenophobic of their own people, but they are not even racist about the Mzungus being there. Now, I don't understand how Rwandese, they are living in poverty in villages, back in the villages. You know, Rwanda is only developed the part we see. Kigali is the only developed part in Rwanda. Let me surprise you, my people. Go to the villages, go to the remote areas. We have people without electricity in Rwanda. Yes. We have people who are living in shit in Rwanda. Yes, it is happening. But you only see the outside. You only know the city, the capital city. You don't know about those Rwandese who are living in poverty because it's not shown. But we have people living in poverty in that country. But now we have the government, instead of taking care of that, we have the government coming to even bring more problems with inheriting different races that are not our problem to Africa. This is insane. It should stop, and we need to end this madness. I believe with African, even with African countries coming together, we can say no to this madness. We can say no. Because why not? This is our Africa. These are our countries. Don't you believe we can say no? I believe we can. If we are united. Only if we are united. I believe we can say no. But shout out to, let me big up some people right here on TikTok. Shout out to Jadidi. Karibu sana Jadidi. We also have Caleb Nzioka. Thank you very much, Caleb, for joining us. We have Handshake for Real, Karibu sana, and we also have The Clue, Karibu sana, and thank you very much for joining us on today's episode as we get to continue with our conversations of the day. It is almost an hour down the line, and it's actually like I'm doing the show alone, so I bet we shall go 30 more minutes and then we get to wrap up the show, because I'm not kid. I cannot talk for a whole 2 hours alone. I cannot do that. But anyway, as we get to continue with the other now different matters, this is still from Africa. And so this is about India. You know, it's crazy that we saw during the week, we saw the Kenyan president in a talk with the Indian minister, and we got along, and right now he is insisting of Africans trading in rupees and de-dollarizing, you know. But I thought we were going a different route. There was a time he talked about de-dollarizing and he said that we need a common currency. Now you want to mean that the common currency is rupees? It's crazy. Anyway, that's not what I want us to discuss. I want us to discuss about India in talks with Nigeria for fighter jets exports. Yes, a state-owned Hindustan Aeronautics of India is currently engaged in discussions with at least 3 nations, that is Nigeria, the Philippines, and Argentina, for export of its domestically produced multi-role fighter jets. Negotiations for the export of Tejas fighter jets are advancing with these 3 countries, according to CB and they have heavy names, they have difficult names. Krishnan, chairman of Hindu Aeronautics. And speaking of reporters in New Delhi, he mentioned that Egypt has also expressed interest in lighting combat aircraft, but discussions are still in early stages, Bloomberg reported. So we have Nigeria in a conversation of getting jets from India. Germany, why are we degrading ourselves like this? Africans, where are we heading to? Imagine we are looking Now we are looking up to India giving us jet fighters. These are the jets we use during wars. So does it even make sense to you that we are getting jets from India? We saw that Kenya has gotten a loan from India. Is Nigeria headed the same way? Do you think that Kenya is leading Nigeria to the same way, to the same direction? Because I believe the fact that Nigeria is in a talk with India in getting jet fighters, it's it's being led by Kenya, because we saw Kenya got a loan from India. Why are we degrading ourselves like this? We know very well India is a very poor country. Very, very poor country. So how do we even expect that India is making aircrafts? Do you think that they are even operational aircrafts? I don't know much about aeronautics or their aircraft and how they make them, but this is weird, because I feel like Africans, we are degrading ourselves to a point that now we want to make it right for us borrowing money from Indians. This country is so poor to be giving us money. Now we want to get jet fighters from India, and for sure Kenya, Nigeria, pilot countries, and you will see other follow on the same direction, because the pilot countries has done it. You know, this is so insane. Excuse me. This is so crazy, and it doesn't make sense to me. But speaking to reports in New Delhi, he mentioned that Egypt has also expressed interest, and the aerospace and defense manufacturer is actively seeking a solution to meet Argentina's legal requirements, which currently prohibit the use of British-made components, as shared by Ananda Krishnan. The Prime Minister of India, that is Narendra Modi, seeks to more than triple the South Asian nations oversee defense sales. Modi is determined to transform India to a key defense manufacturer, targeting an ambitious goal of achieving $5 billion in annual reports by the financial year ending March 2025. Despite a surge in substantial orders from the Indian Defense Forces, exports currently constitute a mere 1% of revenues for the fighter jet maker. To enhance exports, Hindustan Aeronautics is establishing offices in select overseas markets. The company is actively involved in discussions with the Nigerian Army Aviation and Argentina Air Force to provide officer training and supply spare, as outlined in the latest annual report. Wow, officer training. Do you think that now India is going the same way we're seeing Russia going and trying to gain influence in Africa? Because this is what I see, and this is what is actually happening. Because once they have started lending us money, they are starting talking about aircrafts and building us air fighter jets, and also training our army. I feel like this is heading to a point that India is also seeking for influence in Africa. Can you imagine being colonized by Indians? That would be shameful. That would be shameful. Imagine being colonized by Indians. Indians come to your country and they say, do you know we colonized Africa? Do you know that you are my colonies? Imagine what would happen. You are colonized by Indians. Can you imagine being colonized by India? Because what is happening, what I get from this is that Indians are, or the Indian government is trying to gain influence in Africa, and they are interested in agriculture, Right now they are talking about training our army, of which I don't know how strong Indian army is and how their military training is. Also, they talked about importing cheetahs from Kenya. So they are interested in agriculture. They are interested in our armies, and also some part of maybe indebting Africa. Because once we have received 38 billion, that is not simple money. That is not little money that we can pay within a blink of an eye. Because remember, we owe so much to the international lenders, and now India has become, or it has gotten to a list of the international lenders. Do you know that African countries are actually the ones that should be lending money to these states? But right now we are getting, or we are putting ourselves at a state of vulnerability under these puppet leaders, that even India is taking advantage of our docility and dumbness. Man, this is crazy. Last month, the Nigerian Air Force announced that it had struck a deal with an Italian defense company for the supply of 24 million to the 346 master aircraft. The deal is said to be worth around 1.2 billion euros, and the aircraft is expected to be delivered to the Nigerian Air Force in 2024. The master aircraft would replace the aging Dassault Alpha Jet AE and enhance Nigeria's aerial capabilities and bolster its defense strategies. Over the past decade, Nigeria has been confronted with the security challenges, particularly insurgency in the north. Groups such as Boko Haram, Islamic State, West Africa have managed to gain control of significant areas of ungoverned space in the region, conducting attacks and kidnappings across the country. Consequently, the country has found itself compelled to spend more on defense than it normally would. In 2019, the total allocation to the defense sector was 589,955 billion naira. It is crazy, but however, looking ahead to 2024, a substantial budget of 3.25 trillion naira, equivalent to 12% of the overall budget, has been earmarked for the provision of military, police, intelligence, and paramilitary forces. So, my guys, where do you think we're heading as Africans? Because I see Africa is not going anywhere. We are actually drowning. It's like we are, we are collapsing. From Ruto to Nigeria, to, man, this is crazy. Because imagine we have allowed the Indians to gain influence in Africa to a point that, or we have showed them that we are actually poor to a point that they can lend us money. Look at a country like India. How much worth is India? What is India's GDP? Compare that to any other African countries and you'd see how we are failing as African countries. Imagine now being colonized, being recolonized by an Indian. First you are colonized by the British, now Indians. But don't you think that this is a plan? Because the plan has to be, the plan comes with just like the way China was a set-up country. India is not a set-up country, it's not a made-up country. But there might be a plan of making sure that also these people are gaining influence in Africa for an easier control, for an easier control. Because remember, once we are indebted with so many international or foreign lenders, we are still indebted. And remember, the whole the money in banks, even in this Exim Bank, it is controlled by the World Bank. the lending rates are controlled by the World Bank. So it is still the same. It is still the same. The money is controlled by the same person, and you know what I mean. So my people, I don't know what you think about it, but I'd tell my fellow Africans, we need to wake up. We need to wake up. But before we get to the main focus of the day, I have one more story. This is about President William Ruto urging businesses to trade in rupees for after licensing Indian Exim Bank. Exim, it's actually Exim. I don't know why I keep on saying Exim, but it is Exim Bank operations in Kenya. And President William Ruto welcomed Indian Exim Bank operations in Nairobi, Kenya as the East Africa Regional Branch. Industrialization Principal Secretary Juma Mukwana said the move will enhance trade and investment between Kenya and India. Mukwana announced the development allowing Kenyan businesses to trade with Indian firms to transact using rupees. This is crazy. It is crazy. And I've discussed this. I bet I have discussed this in the previous conversation, so I will not get to repeat the whole thing. But at the end of the day, this is crazy. We are heading to a point that we are allowing the Indians to control us and even our country and also our money. Because Exim Bank, but remember, all these banks are under the World Bank, so it's the same thing. The plan is to indebt Africa. So Africans, we better wake up and realize that these people are here planning on how they can indebt us. If we are indebted by so many international lenders, don't you think that we are indebted by Chinese? So you know we don't owe the World Bank. It is the same. It is the same thing. But President William Ruto's administration urged Kenyan traders doing business with their Indian counterparts to trade using rupees. Industrialize. And what about the Kenyan shillings? Okay, it is in my country that you want me to trade with the rupees. What about the Kenyan currency? What about the Kenyan shillings? This is why we're seeing the Kenyan shillings depreciating every other day. This is what is happening. The Kenyan currency is depreciating every other day because the president is so insane, sorry to say so. He's going everywhere, collecting every people and coming to tell them you can trade with the rupees, you can trade with the naira, you can trade with the, it's so crazy. You can trade in pounds. It's so crazy. It is so crazy. But industrialization principal secretary Juma Mukwana said the move will ease the cost of production currently exacerbated by the devalued shilling against the dollar. It's crazy because I don't see how the Indian rupee has more value than even our Kenyan currency. It doesn't make sense for me, but at the end of the day, we also have different views on this one. So in case you have a different view, you can let us know what is your view about this. But also coming to the main focus of the day, and I bet this is the last topic. Yes, this is the last topic. I'm not planning to talk for a whole 2 hours, my people. I am not. But anyway, this is the last topic for me. Let me sip some water. Excuse me. Okay, so we get to continue with our last news and updates, and this is AFDB president warning of $25 billion loss for Africa with the European Union carbon tax, and this is annually. Yes, if we happen to be getting this carbon credit annually from the EU, this is other continents, of course, we shall be going on a loss of $25 billion, and this is annually. But president of the African Developing Bank Group, Akinwumi Adesina, has warned that the proposed EU carbon border tax could result in annual loss of $25 billion for Africa, seriously impeding the continent's trade and impeding industrialization progress. And on that industrialization progress, let's even stop there first. Once we start carrying the burden of these people's carbon emission, it means that now it is stopping us from focusing on our main problems. And remember, we're carrying waste of other continents. So it means that our industries has to stop fast. They have to stop its operation for us to be able to deal with this carbon coming from other continents, because we allowed ourselves to be used to carry the burden. But in October, the EU launched the first phase of the world's first system to impose CO2 emissions tariffs on imported steel, cement, and other goods as it tries to stop more polluting foreign products from undermining its green transition. With Africa's energy deficit and reliance mainly on fossil fuels, especially diesel, the implication is that Africa will be forced to export raw materials or raw commodities again to Europe. So once we start exporting raw materials to Europe, this means that we have completely stopped our industries, or we have stopped operational industries in Africa, because if you're using the raw materials in other continents, it means that your industries are not working in Africa, because where will they be getting the raw materials? We are exporting our raw materials to Europe, but where are you going to get raw materials for your industries in Africa? You need to think about this first as Africans. I see Anto in the building, karibu sana. He's asking, ni nani tunazushia? Wewe unataka kuzusha tu. Tunazushia wazungu manzeva. Anyway, which will further cause de-industrialization of Africa, because once we export raw materials from Africa, we exhaust the raw materials for our African industries. Where do you think that we are going to get now more raw materials to continue with the industries, or to continue our industries in Africa? Think about this. Think about this. It's so crazy. Africa could lose up to $25 billion per annum as a direct result of the EU carbon border tax adjustment mechanism. The bank president told delegates at the Sustainable Trade Africa conference held at the UAE Trade Center in Dubai. He stressed that Africa has already been disadvantaged by climate change, and it's now at a risk of being shortchanged in global trade. Do you know what shortchanged mean? Lied, deceit, being lied by the global trade, or by the globe. Because of weak integration into global value chains, Africa's best trade opportunity lies in intra-regional exchanges. With the new Africa Continental Free Trade Area estimated to increase intra-Africa exports over 80% by 2035. Adesina emphasized that Africa is currently being marginalized in the global energy transition as inducted by data from the International Renewable $3 trillion of global investment in renewable energy in the past 2 decades. A trend that will now impact negatively on its ability to export competitively into Europe, said Adesina, as he called for what termed as just trade for energy transition policies, which would allow Africa to pursue its renewable ambitions without limiting its trade prospects. But you know, we don't think about things we're signing for, or we are signing in as African, but as Those African puppets, they don't even take care, or they don't mind what they are signing into law. They just sign for the sake of signing. So tell me why our Kenyan president would just go ahead and sign a deal of carbon taxing, or carbon tax, of receiving carbon tax, without even thinking about the negative impact it will bring to our countries, without looking at the negative impact it will bring to our economies. And this is not even affecting us as a country, it is affecting us as a continent. Now look at now the money we're supposed to be losing annually just because we decided to take the burden of the European continent. Until when are we going to do this? Until when are we going to be worshipping these people to a point that we are like, I will carry your cross? Why are you carrying their crosses? Let the carbon kill them over there if they are going to die. But why do you need to bring the carbon to Africa and now you have to find a way to remove it back? It doesn't make sense. He noted that that Africa will need to use natural gas as a transition fuel to reduce the variability of renewable energy and stabilize its energy system to support industrialization. But do you think that now, if we still get these carbon taxes, our industries are going to grow? No, our industries are actually going to fail, to completely fall. Our manufacturing industries will not have raw materials, thus leading to the collapse. And at the end of the day, in Africa, we are not going to be able to manufacture anything. And that is the goal. That is their goal, because they want to make sure that Africa is not doing any good. They want to make room for them to indebt us more. They want to make room for them to impoverish Africa more. But our puppet leaders are just like, yes, we need to be paid carbon tax. Yes. They are even going to an extent of chasing people from the Mao forest so that they can receive extra carbon tax money from the forest. It's crazy. Adesina said a report by Moody's Analytics showed that Africa had the lowest default rate on investment in infrastructure compared to other parts of the world. Walid Mohammed Hareb Al-Fahlahi, the chief executive officer of the UAE Trade Center, challenged the common perception that Africa is perilous and challenging place for business. Instead, he asserted that Africa is the new frontier for investment. What you hear about Africa is not the reality. I see the potential in Africa. I see the possibility to do more, said Al-Falahi. Yeah, they see potential. They see everything. They see stupid people, docile people. That is all they see. They see people, they see room of taking advantage of Africans. They see room of making more money from Africans. They see all that. You know, they see the potential. They see everything. But what do we see as Africans? We don't see anything. We just sign, we just put it down on paper and think that it's right to receive carbon tax from the Europe and take their burdens and leave our companies, our industries falling. We know very well that our president right here in the 254, and you know, I blame this on him because he was the person who proposed about carbon tax, Africa receiving carbon tax in the Africa Climate Summit that happened in Nairobi Conventional Center. So I blame this on him because he doesn't know, or he doesn't even care about what is going to happen in the industries, in the industrialization sector. And remember, during his campaigns, he came and told us we are going to industrialize Africa. are going, our main agenda is industrializing Kenya. Industrialization, providing Kenyans with better education. But what is he doing right now? What do you think that your president is doing right now? He's actually selling us out. To the Indians, to the Europeans, to the, to every people. He's selling us out. Selling Kenya to every type of people, to every type of person he comes across. No matter, as long as you're giving me the mullah, or as long as he's getting the mullah, he goes ahead. No matter how little the cash is, he goes ahead. Right now, he's even exporting cheetahs to Indians. I don't know what ritual these people do with the cheetahs, but this is just crazy, my people. It is insane. It is insane. And just like somebody was telling me today in the morning, we are many. Compared to the army we have, to the troops we have in Kenya, we are the majority. If we would decide one day to wake up and go to the parliament or go to the state house and decide to remove Ruto in there, we would, because we are the majority. Food for thought. Yeah, I leave you with that, family. I think we shall wrap it up right there. I'm done with my conversations of the day. That is all I wanted us to discuss on today's episode, and it would be 2 hour session if Joby was here, but my guys, I cannot manage to talk for 2 hours. This is a talk show. You're not allowed to play music because we are on YouTube. But if we were allowed to play music, I would even go for 3 hours. But just because it's a talk show, I wouldn't play music right here. So I tried as much as I could. It was a wonderful 1 hour 30 minutes with you, my people. So I hope you get to enjoy the rest part of the day. I hope to meet you later on the next episode of The Word of the Streets. I hope you have enjoyed, by the way, our conversation, and thanks to all those who joined me, even though you didn't talk. Asanteni sana for joining me. Thank you to all those who joined me from TikTok as well, to all those who joined me on the radio station as well. Asanteni sana. I hope you did get to enjoy the conversation, even though you didn't talk back. And kwaherini, enjoy the rest part of the day, but don't forget to join us on the next episode of the Rhythm Scoop Show. For a minute I wanted to say Tubonge, but anyway, kwaheri. I'm leaving you with the Sauti Soul, the jam we were jamming to Nikushike.